My family laughed at my dreams and left me homeless. Years later, they begged me for help. The opulent conference room, adorned with panoramic views of the city skyline, felt ironically small to the two figures seated nervously before him. Light, filtered through custom-tinted floor-to-ceiling windows, cast a soft, almost ethereal glow on the polished surfaces, reflecting the meticulously arranged abstract art on the walls and the gleam of the mahogany table. The air itself, circulated by a silent, state-of-the-art ventilation system, felt heavy, thick with the weight of unspoken words and years of simmering resentment. Their once impeccable attire now bore the subtle marks of disrepair. Theron's tailored suit, though still expensive, had a faint sheen of wear on the elbows and a slight, almost imperceptible fraying at the cuffs, while Alara's designer handbag, clutched so tightly, showed a worn patch on one corner, a testament to the erosion of their former grandeur. Theron, his older brother, shifted uncomfortably in his plush leather seat, the expensive material sighing beneath his weight. His gaze darted erratically from the intricate wood grain of the table to the vibrant, perplexing abstract art anywhere but at Orion. The nervous tick at the corner of his eye, a subtle jump of muscle, spoke volumes of his inner turmoil. His once commanding presence, usually a wall of impenetrable arrogance, was now reduced to a trembling facade. Alara, his mother, typically the epitome of poised control, clutched her handbag with knuckles white against the soft leather, her fingers digging into the material as if anchoring herself against an unseen current. Her eyes, though still sharp with an ingrained shrewdness, now held an unfamiliar flicker of desperation, a desperate plea that had never before tarnished their polished surface. The tension, a silent crescendo, had been building for years, a discordant symphony of slights and dismissals, now reaching its inevitable, deafening peak. This was not merely a negotiation, it was a reckoning, meticulously orchestrated and long awaited. Orion, Theron began, his voice a strained whisper, barely audible above the hum of the city far below. It was a stark, almost pathetic contrast to the booming, self-assured pronouncements Orion remembered from their shared youth, pronouncements that had always carried an air of unquestionable authority. We're in a difficult position. His words trailed off, a confession of weakness that seemed to physically pain him to utter. Alara, ever the pragmatist, even in the precipice of their collapse, added, her voice brittle as frosted glass, each syllable sharp with thinly veiled shame, "We need your help, son. Financial assistance. Things have gone south." "Very much so." She avoided Orion's direct gaze, instead focusing on a distant point on the skyline, as if the answers to her predicament might be found amongst the gleaming skyscrapers. Orion observed them, his expression carefully neutral, a mask of composed indifference that betrayed none of the complex emotions swirling within him. His hands, resting clasped on the polished mahogany table before him, were steady, perfectly still. There was no tremor of anger, no surge of triumphant vindication, only a quiet, almost academic interest in the unfolding drama. This moment, so long anticipated, so meticulously prepared for, was finally here. They sat across from him, the very architects of his past despair, now supplicants in the very empire they had once scorned as a childish fantasy. Their pleas, though delivered with a veneer of forced humility, were undeniably laced with an underlying entitlement, a subtle, almost unconscious expectation that, despite everything, Orion would simply fall in line, that he would revert to the compliant son they had once taken for granted. They were, with breathtaking audacity, asking for the very thing they had so cruelly and completely withheld from him, years ago, when he himself had been in dire need. And as Orion met their desperate, pleading gazes, he allowed himself a quiet, internal smile. They had no idea of the intricate, invisible web that had spun them into this very room, this very moment. They believed this was a simple, unfortunate twist of fate, a cruel stroke of bad luck. Orion knew it was the culmination of a meticulously executed plan, years in the making. His mind drifted back, not to the absolute beginning of his life story, but to the precipice of his public life, the moment when the chasm between his fervent aspirations and his family's rigid expectations became irrevocably wide, a gaping canyon of misunderstanding and dismissal. It was a crisp, almost unnaturally clear autumn evening, his 22nd birthday. The family's elegant dining room, a cavernous space usually a stage for elaborate displays of their carefully curated social status, with its heirloom silver glinting under the chandelier and its walls adorned with ancestral portraits, now felt suffocatingly small, a gilded cage. He had spent months, nay, years, meticulously refining his game concept, a revolutionary open-world experience that blended intricate narrative choices with groundbreaking AI-driven character interactions, a truly living, breathing world that promised to redefine interactive entertainment. Every waking hour, every spare moment, had been poured into this vision. He believed, with every fiber of his being, that it was not just a game, but the undeniable future of interactive storytelling. That night, armed with a portfolio of detailed wireframes, evocative concept art, and a passionate, well-rehearsed pitch, he had laid out his vision. His voice, usually quiet, had resonated with conviction as he spoke of innovation, of emotional depth, of a new paradigm for immersive storytelling that transcended mere entertainment. He sought their understanding, their belief, and yes, their modest financial backing, a seed investment, a tiny fraction of their considerable wealth, to jumpstart the development, to hire a small team, to bring the initial prototype to life. Theron, then a rising star in corporate law, known for his sharp tongue and even sharper suits, had leaned back in his ornate dining chair, a condescending smirk playing on his lips, a gesture that always bespoke his disdain. Orion, he had scoffed, his voice dripping with an almost theatrical condescension, a tone that had always made Orion's blood run cold. Do you truly believe this childish fantasy of yours holds any merit beyond occupying your idle hours? Games are toys, mere diversions for children, not careers for serious individuals. It's a pipe dream, a preposterous waste of your intellect, which, though perhaps misdirected, does exist. Elara, ever the strategist of social standing, had chimed in then, her tone a chilling blend of disappointment and exasperation, as if Orion's very existence was a personal affront to her carefully constructed world. Her perfectly manicured hand had gestured dismissively towards his carefully prepared presentation. Your father and I have worked tirelessly to build this family's reputation, Orion. We have cultivated connections, navigated complex social landscapes, all to ensure a legacy of prestige. We envision a stable, respectable future for you, something in finance, perhaps, or a reputable profession like medicine or law. This hobby of yours, this digital plaything, is not merely impractical, it is an embarrassment. It reflects poorly on us, on everything we stand for. It's high time you abandoned these fantastical delusions and pursued a conventional, proper job, one that offers true security and standing. Their words, delivered with a casual cruelty that suggested his dreams were not only worthless but actively detrimental to their impeccable image, were a physical blow. It was as if they had reached into his chest and squeezed his very heart. The mockery escalated with each of his faltering attempts to defend his vision. They painted him as irresponsible, as ungrateful for the comfortable life they had so generously provided. The argument spiraled, fueled by their unwavering condescension and his own equally unyielding conviction. His desperate attempts to explain the technological intricacies, the artistic merit, the nascent potential of the burgeoning market for interactive entertainment, were met with derisive laughter, sharp dismissals, and knowing glances exchanged between them. Theron had even suggested, with a sardonic chuckle, that Orion grow up and get a real job, perhaps in a bank, where his analytical mind, if it truly existed, could be put to proper use by counting other people's money. Elara, with a wave of her hand, declared that his artistic pretensions were a luxury they could not afford, especially if they threatened the family's delicate social standing or hinted at eccentricity. The climax of that bitter exchange, the moment that etched itself permanently into Orion's soul, was when Elara, her face contorted in a mask of stern finality, her voice devoid of all warmth, declared, "If you insist on pursuing this foolishness, Orion, if you choose this path of self-indulgence and public embarrassment, then you leave us no choice. We cannot and will not support such irresponsible behavior. You are on your own. You will not receive another penny from this family. Consider yourself disowned, until you come to your senses and embrace reality." Her words hung in the air, cold and definitive, sealing his fate. Theron, ever his mother's echo, added, his voice laced with smug certainty, "You'll see, Orion. Reality bites, and it bites hard. You'll be back, begging for a proper job within months, once you've experienced the real world. This game dream? It's over. You're simply not built for it." And so, at 22, he was cast out. Without a home, without financial assistance, effectively rendered homeless overnight. The comfortable life he had known, a life of privilege and curated comfort, vanished as if it had never existed, replaced by the stark reality of cold park benches, the echoing emptiness of his own shattered ambition, and the gnawing pangs of hunger that became his constant companion. He took odd jobs, washing dishes in greasy restaurant kitchens, stocking shelves in dimly lit supermarkets, scrubbing floors in offices after hours, anything that paid enough for a cheap, unappetizing meal and a fleeting moment of warmth in a public library or a bustling coffee shop with free Wi-Fi. Every single penny earned was meticulously saved, not for comfort, not for fleeting pleasure, but for the essential tools he needed: a used laptop, a single, flickering monitor, access to development software. This period of immense hardship, while physically grueling and emotionally isolating, became Orion's crucible. It stripped away all pretense, all reliance on external validation, all illusions of a safety net. It forged an unyielding resolve within him, hardening his spirit against the blows of adversity. Their rejection, rather than crushing his spirit into submission, ignited an inferno of determination, a quiet, furious resolve that burned brighter with each passing day. He would not just prove them wrong, he would build something so undeniably monumental, so profoundly impactful, that their very existence would eventually depend on acknowledging it, on recognizing its worth. This was not about simple spite, though a flicker of it certainly existed. It was about self-actualization, about manifesting a vision that had been declared impossible, a dream they had attempted to suffocate. Orion's secret weapon wasn't a hidden inheritance, nor was it a powerful, benevolent ally waiting in the wings to rescue him. It was something far more potent, far more insidious in its quiet power, an unshakable belief in his own vision, a conviction that bordered on fanaticism, coupled with an almost obsessive dedication to acquiring every single piece of knowledge necessary to bring that vision to life. He devoured every coding tutorial he could find online, every book on design principles, every obscure treatise on business strategy, every case study of successful startups. Libraries became his second home, their hushed aisles a sanctuary of learning, their free Wi-Fi his lifeline to a world of information. He taught himself advanced programming languages, the intricacies of 3D modeling and animation, the nuanced principles of game design, and even the dry complexities of marketing and intellectual property law. He became, in essence, a one-person army, fueled by stale coffee, cheap instant noodles, and an almost manic, relentless pursuit of knowledge, driven by an inner fire that would not be extinguished. Crucially, he also understood, intuitively, the profound power of collaboration, and the vital importance of surrounding himself with people who shared his passion, not his family's cold pragmatism. He sought out online forums dedicated to indie game development, attended obscure, often sparsely populated, developer meetups in dimly lit community halls, and even managed to sneak into academic conferences by posing as a student. He networked tirelessly, not with the intention of immediate gain or personal profit, but to connect with genuinely like-minded individuals, visionaries who saw beyond the traditional confines of the entertainment industry, who understood the nascent potential of this new art form. He found a small, scattered community of brilliant misfits, unconventional artists, gifted coders, and audacious dreamers, who believed in the transformative power of games, just as he did. They became his surrogate family, his sounding board for wild ideas, his unwavering collaborators. They shared their meager resources, their hard-won knowledge, and an unwavering, almost audacious belief that together, they could create something truly special, something that would resonate far beyond the confines of their small, dedicated circle. This network, built on mutual respect, shared passion, and a common artistic goal rather than blood ties or social status, became Orion's true foundation, his bedrock. It was a silent, largely unacknowledged force, growing steadily in the shadows, while his biological family remained blissfully unaware, preoccupied with their own rapidly dwindling fortunes and increasingly precarious social standing. While Orion was meticulously building his future, brick by painstaking brick, crafting an empire from nothing, Theron and Alara were, by all accounts, filtering back to him through his subtle network, enjoying the fruits of their perceived success. From a distance, Orion observed their trajectory, not with malice or vengeful glee, but with a detached, almost clinical analytical curiosity. Their lives, once so meticulously curated, so carefully constructed for public admiration, seemed to be unraveling with a tragicomic inevitability, like a poorly designed machine grinding itself to a halt. They had always prided themselves on their shrewd investments, boasting of their financial acumen at every opportunity, but these were, in essence, high-stakes gambles, reckless ventures driven by an insatiable, almost desperate desire for more, for greater social leverage, for a shinier veneer of success. Their plan, as Orion understood it from the whispers and subtle financial indicators, was to continue ascending the social ladder through increasingly extravagant spending and a series of questionable, highly speculative financial ventures. Theron, convinced of his infallible business acumen, a trait he boasted of often, had plunged significant family capital into a series of ill-advised, highly speculative real estate developments. These were not grounded in sound market analysis or careful planning, but rather in a desire for flashy, high-profile projects that would bolster their image and be the talk of their socialite circles. One such project, a luxury beachfront resort in a politically unstable region, had been particularly ill-conceived, promising immense returns but built on foundations of sand. Alara, meanwhile, continued her relentless, almost pathological pursuit of social validation, hosting lavish parties that cost more than some people earned in a year, acquiring ostentatious luxuries that screamed wealth rather than taste, and investing heavily in exclusive clubs and philanthropic endeavors that primarily served to enhance her public profile and secure her position in the city's elite, rather than genuinely help those in need. Their spending was not an investment in a secure future, but a desperate, frantic attempt to outrun the gnawing insecurity that lay just beneath their polished, glittering veneer. As Orion toiled away, learning, coding, and painstakingly building his game, he would occasionally catch snippets of news about their increasingly precarious ventures. Whispers of a luxury condominium project stalling due to unexpected legal challenges, rumors of a high-end restaurant chain failing to launch after a crucial investor pulled out, stories of speculative tech startups they had backed collapsing spectacularly. He saw the telltale signs of overextension, of a house of cards built on ego and unchecked ambition rather than solid financial foundations. They were caught in a self-perpetuating, accelerating cycle. Failed investments necessitated even larger, riskier ones to recoup losses, and their increasingly extravagant lifestyle demanded a constant, unsustainable influx of capital. They were, in essence, living off the perceived future, borrowing against a prosperity that never truly materialized, not the present reality. Orion's own plan, meanwhile, unfolded in quiet, methodical, almost imperceptible steps. Each line of code written, each 3D model perfected down to the last polygon, each networking event attended, each mentorship sought, was a strategic move, a piece of a much larger, intricate puzzle. He didn't seek immediate recognition, nor did he crave public accolades in those early years. In fact, he actively avoided it. His nascent project, which he had christened Ethelgard, remained largely under wraps, a ghost in the machine, known only to his small, dedicated core team and a handful of trusted industry mentors who saw its nascent, revolutionary potential. This prolonged period of stealth development was crucial. It allowed him to refine his product without external pressure, without the glare of premature judgment, especially from those who had so casually dismissed him and his dreams. While Theron and Alara were busy projecting an image of unparalleled prosperity, meticulously maintaining a facade of wealth and influence, Orion was building actual, tangible value, brick by digital brick. His company, formally incorporated years later with his core team, was lean, efficient, and fiercely innovative. They operated under the radar, growing organically, fueled by shared passion, strategic, low-risk investments, and an unwavering commitment to their vision. Their initial funding came from small grants for promising tech startups and a few angel investors who believed in the game's unique vision, not the shallow hype. They made calculated decisions, prioritizing product quality, artistic integrity, and player experience above all else, knowing that true success would stem from genuine merit, not marketing fluff. The profound silence surrounding his progress was often mistaken by his family, if they even deigned to think of him at all, as continued failure, a prolonged capitulation to their dictates. Theron, in a rare encounter with a distant, gossipy relative, was rumored to have dismissed Orion with a dismissive wave of his hand, saying, "Oh, Orion? Still dabbling in those silly games, bless his heart. He just can't seem to face reality, can he?" Elara, it was said, simply changed the subject whenever his name was mentioned, preferring to maintain the illusion of his non-existence in their perfect, unblemished world, as if erasing him from their memory would erase his inconvenient ambition. Their disdain had solidified into a convenient amnesia, a selective memory that purged any mention of his embarrassing aspirations. This silent, contemptuous dismissal only fueled Orion's resolve further, adding another layer to his meticulous plan. Their arrogance was a self-imposed shield against the truth, and he was content to let them live behind it, for now. The eventual reveal, he knew, would be all the more impactful for it. The day Ethelgard launched was not marked by flashy celebrations, extravagant parties, or media extravaganzas. It was a quiet, intensely focused moment shared between Orion and his core team, huddled in a modest, slightly cramped office space, watching the download numbers tick upwards with bated breath. They had invested everything, not just money, but years of their lives, their intellect, their very souls, into this creation. The initial reception was positive, then enthusiastically so, then, with astonishing, almost terrifying speed, it became a roaring wave that swept across the globe. Word of mouth, fueled by the game's unprecedented depth, its emotionally resonant narrative, and its truly innovative mechanics, spread like wildfire across every continent. Critics hailed it as a masterpiece, a paradigm shift in interactive storytelling. Players lauded its immersive, living world and its groundbreaking AI-driven character interactions, forming passionate communities around it. Ethelgard wasn't just a game, it was an experience, a cultural phenomenon that transcended its medium. Within mere months, Orion's company, once a small, anonymous startup operating out of a rented office, exploded into a multi-billion-dollar empire, a force to be reckoned with in the global tech landscape. Awards piled up in his offices, gleaming accolades from every major tech and business publication were requested, and Orion, the disowned dreamer, the childish fantasist, became a revered titan in the tech world, a symbol of unwavering perseverance, groundbreaking innovation, and a quiet, undeniable genius. His name, once whispered with shame and embarrassment by his family, was now synonymous with visionary success, spoken with awe and respect in boardrooms and tech conferences worldwide. And as Orion's star ascended, theirs plummeted. Their poor financial decisions, once merely ill-advised gambles, now coalesced into a perfect storm of ruin. The speculative real estate ventures collapsed, leaving them with insurmountable debt that spiraled out of control. Their extravagant spending, years of living beyond their means, had utterly depleted their reserves, leaving no safety net, no financial buffer to cushion their fall. The exclusive social circles they had so painstakingly cultivated, the very foundation of Elara's identity, evaporated with shocking speed, replaced by relentless creditors, cold-shouldered former acquaintances, and scornful whispers behind cupped hands. Their once secure, glittering life crumbled into dust, leaving them utterly desperate, with absolutely nowhere left to turn. The irony, as Orion observed, was exquisite, almost poetic. The very world they had built, based on superficiality, shallow image, and fleeting social status, was now devouring them whole, consuming them in its fall. The call came from an unfamiliar number, a public line listed for his executive assistant, Everly. His assistant, a woman of impeccable discretion, razor-sharp wit, and an uncanny ability to read a room, informed him, her voice carefully neutral, betraying no hint of personal judgment, "Mr. Thorne, your brother, Theron, and your mother, Elara, are here. They are requesting an urgent meeting. They mentioned a matter of extreme personal urgency. Orion had anticipated this call for years, had seen the trajectory, the inevitable crash, almost as clearly as if it were laid out on a chart. He had even, subtly, through his extensive network of contacts and the financial analysts he employed, kept precise tabs on their escalating financial woes, ensuring he was always a step ahead, always aware of their approaching demise. This wasn't an accident, it was an undeniable, unavoidable consequence of their own choices. Orion instructed Everly to grant them an appointment, not immediately, not in their moment of peak desperation, but after a calculated delay of several days. This, he knew, would allow the full, crushing weight of their desperation to settle, to marinate, to become an unbearable burden. The meeting was finally set in his private conference room, intentionally opulent, a subtle but undeniable symbol of the empire they had so carelessly dismissed. He had even ensured that Everly, his personal assistant, would be present, ostensibly to take notes, but in reality, to serve as an impartial witness, a silent, professional observer to the grand unveiling of truth, a witness who would remember every word. When they finally entered the room, several days later, their faces were etched with the profound strains of humiliation and despair, a stark contrast to the confident masks he remembered. Theron, once so arrogant, now clutched a worn, slightly scuffed leather briefcase, its contents surely as desolate as his spirit. His shoulders were slumped, his posture defeated. Elara, her elegant posture now a brittle shell, her designer clothes perhaps laundered too many times, avoided Orion's direct gaze, preferring instead to stare intently at the expensive, abstract artwork on the wall, as if seeking answers in its enigmatic patterns. They looked at him, Orion, their long-lost son, not with warmth or affection, not with genuine remorse, but with the desperate, cold calculation of those facing utter financial ruin, their every gesture a plea for salvage. Orion allowed a moment of profound silence to stretch between them, an uncomfortable, suffocating vacuum that amplified their anxiety, making their nervous fidgeting all the more pronounced. Then, in a calm, measured voice, a voice that carried the undeniable weight of authority and hard-won power, he began. Mother. Theron. Please, have a seat. The words were soft, yet firm, a gentle command that brooked no argument. Theron cleared his throat, a dry, rasping sound, his usual bluster replaced by a nervous tremor that ran through his entire frame. Orion, he began, attempting a conciliatory, almost affectionate tone that rang utterly hollow, it's been far too long. We've missed you, truly. He offered a weak, ingratiating smile, a desperate attempt to bridge the chasm. Elara managed a weak, almost imperceptible smile of her own, a pale, pathetic imitation of her former charm, her lips barely curving. Yes, darling. We've watched your incredible success with such immense pride. You've truly become something remarkable. Her voice trembled on the last word. Orion met their gaze, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips, a subtle, almost imperceptible curl that hinted at the profound irony of their words. Pride? Is that what you call it, mother? Because Orion recalls a time when his aspirations were not a source of pride, but an embarrassment, a childish fantasy, a preposterous waste of time. He recalls being told, quite unequivocally, to abandon his hobby for a stable, conventional job to maintain the family's delicate social standing. He paused, letting each carefully chosen word hang in the air, each one a perfectly aimed arrow finding its mark. He recalls being disowned, cast out, left without a home or any financial assistance, because he refused to let go of his vision, because he chose to pursue a dream that you deemed worthless. Their faces paled visibly, the forced smiles dissolving into masks of shock and dawning horror as the full weight of his words, and the memories they invoked, crashed down upon them. Theron stammered, his words tripping over each other. Orion, you must understand, we were only trying to protect you. We wanted what was truly best for you, for your future. He wrung his hands beneath the table. Best for whom, Theron? Orion asked, his voice still calm, still measured, but with an underlying steel that resonated with unyielding resolve. Best for your image? Best for your social standing? Because for Orion, being protected meant sleeping on cold park benches, taking a succession of grueling odd jobs, and tirelessly teaching himself complex coding and design languages, every skill required to build this dream with his own 2 hands, from absolute nothing. It meant years of quiet struggle, fueled by the very rejection you imposed. Orion leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering, pinning them in their seats. You accused him of being irresponsible and ungrateful. You mocked his ambition, his passion, his unwavering belief. You dismissed his groundbreaking game concept as a naive pipe dream, a childish fantasy. And now, he gestured around the opulent room with a sweep of his hand, indicating the panoramic view of the bustling city, the numerous awards gleaming on the shelves, the undeniable hum of his multi-billion-dollar empire just beyond the glass walls. You sit in the heart of that very pipe dream, a dream that has become an unprecedented global phenomenon, a multi-billion-dollar empire that redefines its industry. Ilara finally found her voice, a desperate whisper, fragile and cracked. We made grievous mistakes, Orion. Grievous errors in judgment. We've lost absolutely everything. Our investments failed disastrously, our properties are all foreclosed, our reputation is in tatters, completely ruined. We have nowhere left to go, no one else to turn to. We came to you, not for a handout, Orion, but for a second chance. For family. Her voice cracked, a single tear tracing a path down her carefully made-up cheek. Family, Orion echoed, the word tasting bitter on his tongue, a foreign concept in the context of their past actions. Is that what you call it? The bond that casts out its own for daring to dream differently? The support that insists on rigid conformity over individual genius, over burgeoning innovation? He watched their expressions, the raw, unvarnished humiliation, the dawning, crushing comprehension of the full extent of his success, contrasted starkly with their complete and utter ruin. The reveal wasn't just the magnitude of his wealth, it was the meticulous chronicle of their own self-inflicted downfall, laid bare before them, and his absolute, intimate knowledge of every ruinous detail. You denied Orion the very financial and emotional support you now beg for. The irony, as he mentioned, is profound. It is a lesson in consequences. Theron looked utterly defeated, his gaze fixed on the gleaming floor, unable to meet Orion's eyes. Ilara's face crumpled entirely, her composure finally breaking. The carefully constructed facade of their lives had imploded, not with a dramatic bang, but with the quiet, devastating precision of Orion's words, each one a hammer blow. They tried to apologize, to justify their past cruelty, to appeal to a familial bond they had themselves long severed with their actions. We were foolish, Theron mumbled, his voice barely audible, arrogant. Blinded by our own ambition. We see that now, Orion, truly. Do you? Orion asked, his tone still measured, betraying only a hint of skepticism. Or do you simply see the direct consequences of your actions, now that they have finally and irrevocably impacted you, now that your comfort and status are gone? The silence that followed was heavy, pregnant with the crushing weight of years of neglect, scorn, and ultimately, absolute reversal of fortune. Everly, his assistant, remained impassive, her pen hovering over her notepad, meticulously recording every syllable, every nuance of their interaction. The public confrontation, though confined to the private, soundproofed walls of his office, felt as if it echoed across the entire city, a testament to the monumental reversal of fortunes. They were completely unprepared for this measured, intellectual dissection of their past cruelty, expecting perhaps an emotional outburst, a tearful plea, or a grand, dramatic scene, not a strategic, precise reckoning delivered with such quiet authority. The fallout was immediate and absolute, though outwardly calm. There was no grand shouting match, no dramatic exit. Just the quiet, crushing realization of their utter defeat, a silent surrender. Theron, robbed of his usual bluster and self-importance, sat slumped, visibly shrinking within his expensive, yet now slightly rumpled, suit. Elara, usually so immaculately composed, looked utterly broken, her eyes welling with tears that spoke less of genuine sorrow or remorse for her actions, and more of desperate self-pity for her lost status. They had come expecting a quick fix, a magical reprieve from their self-inflicted ruin, a wave of Orion's hand to restore their former lives. Instead, they were confronted with the stark, unflattering mirror of their own past actions, held up by the very person they had discarded and deemed worthless. Orion did not offer them the immediate, unconditional bailout they so desperately craved. That would have been a profound betrayal of the immense hardship he endured, a negation of the invaluable lessons learned in his crucible of struggle. Instead, he offered them a path, a challenging one, rooted in the very principles of hard work, humility, and self-sufficiency they had once so scorned. He offered them opportunities to work, not for him directly, not within the gleaming halls of his empire, but in established, conventional roles, far from the spotlight, roles that would allow them to rebuild their lives from the ground up, to earn their living through honest, diligent labor. It was a chance, perhaps their last, to learn the true value of a dollar earned through effort, not simply to spend it carelessly. He made it abundantly clear that any financial assistance would be a loan, meticulously tracked, and tied directly to their demonstrable effort, their commitment to true self-sufficiency, and their willingness to embrace a new, more grounded reality. There would be no return to their former lives of unchecked extravagance, superficial social climbing, or unearned privilege. They would have to earn their way back, not into his inner circle, but into a life of genuine stability and quiet dignity. The news of their spectacular downfall, coupled with the revelation of Orion's meteoric, almost unbelievable rise, became a topic of hushed whispers and astonished gossip in their former, now distant, social circles. The tables had turned with a vengeance that was almost biblical in its scale. Those who had once fawned over Theron and Elara, who had envied their lifestyle, now spoke of their reckless spending and poor judgment with an air of schadenfreude, while marveling at Orion's quiet brilliance, his unexpected triumph, and his seemingly limitless success. Their public image, once so meticulously crafted and protected, dissolved into a cautionary tale, a stark example of hubris and its consequences. They accepted Orion's terms, not with gratitude, but with the weary resignation of those who have no other choice, no other avenue of escape. It was a bitter pill for them to swallow, a testament to the profound and irreversible shift in power dynamics. Several years have passed since that pivotal confrontation, since that day of reckoning. Orion's company, Ethelgard Studios, continues to thrive, expanding into new frontiers of interactive entertainment and technological innovation. He is a recognized titan in the tech world, not just for his immense wealth, but for his visionary approach, his unconventional leadership, and his unwavering commitment to fostering a culture of genuine creativity, collaboration, and ethical innovation. He has established philanthropic initiatives focused on identifying and supporting young, unconventional talents, ensuring that no aspiring visionary faces the same isolation, hardship, and cruel dismissal he once did. His life is one of profound purpose and quiet satisfaction, far removed from the superficial trappings and hollow ambitions of his past. As for Theron and Elara, they are indeed on a different path. They took the opportunities Orion presented, albeit reluctantly at first, their pride smarting at the indignity of it all. Theron works as a mid-level manager in a more stable, less glamorous industry, learning the discipline of steady work, the intricacies of managing a team, and the necessity of operating within a budget, lessons he had always disdained. Elara volunteers at a local community center, a stark contrast to her previous socialite endeavors, and has even taken on a part-time administrative role, finding a quiet sense of purpose in contributing to something larger than herself. They live modestly now, in a comfortable but unpretentious home, a world away from their former mansion and extravagant lifestyle. While their relationship with Orion is not one of warm familial reconciliation, that bridge remains largely unbuilt. There is a quiet, unspoken understanding that has begun to emerge. They have tasted the bitter fruits of their pride and privilege, and in their stripped-down existence, they have, perhaps, begun to understand the true meaning of value, effort, and humility, lessons that wealth had shielded them from. They learned, the hard way, that true wealth is not measured in fleeting assets or precarious social standing, but in the enduring strength of one's character, the resilience of one's spirit, and the unwavering pursuit of one's authentic purpose. This story, like so many others that unfold in the quiet corners of our world, is a powerful testament to the often unseen forces of perseverance and the profound impact of unwavering belief. It reminds us that external validation, particularly from those who cannot see beyond their own limited horizons and self-interest, is ultimately meaningless in the face of true conviction. The true victory lies not in proving others wrong, but in proving yourself right, by building your dreams brick by painstaking brick, even when the world, and sometimes even your own family, tells you they are impossible, naive, or worthless. It is a lesson that echoes across time. When faced with adversity and dismissal, choose not anger or despair, but a calm, strategic determination to become exactly who you are meant to be, independent of anyone's approval, charting your own course with unyielding resolve. This narrative of quiet strength and ultimate triumph is just one of many you'll find here on the channel. We delve into stories of justice, resilience, and the invaluable life lessons that emerge from the deepest challenges. If this tale of Orion's journey inspired you, or if it resonated with something in your own life, remember to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story of human tenacity. And we would love to hear from you. Have you ever faced such ingratitude or dismissal on your own journey, perhaps from those closest to you? What would you have done in Orion's shoes, given the opportunity? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.